Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and this week, it's more of the same for me. Caretaking for my wife, Ange, and I'll let you know, the longer this goes on, the harder and more emotional things get for me. I'm not going to go into the detail of what this disease is doing to my wife, because it's fucking brutal, and no one deserves to go through what she's been going through. I feel so bad for her, and there's nothing I can do to make her feel better. What sucks, actually everything sucks, but what really sucks is just 4 years ago, our life was easy. We both had great jobs, our kid is awesome, we built a great family and a great life. And for the past 3 years, cancer has wreaked havoc on the Powell family. I can't tell you how rough things have been for Ange. And personally, between appointments, caretaking, laundry, the lawn, dinners, grocery shopping, staying on top of managing my kid, getting a podcast done each week, selling stickers for my day job at diecutstickers.com, and all the other things that go on in life, I feel like I'm drowning. I just can't get up to catch my breath. But so far, I've managed to keep everything going. And a big part of my stress was alleviated by the GoFundMe that everybody's been contributing to. So thank you very much for everyone who donated. If you didn't donate, don't worry about it. I realize that everybody has shit going on and not everybody can donate to whatever project someone wants them to donate to. But I appreciate everyone that donated to my family. And if you didn't donate, I don't hold that against you at all. I totally understand that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Sharing is just as important as donating. And I'll tell you, even with insurance, cancer is expensive. And I could go on and on about how life sucks and how cancer has been ruining things for the whole Powell family. And I'm sure it ruins things for a whole lot of other families out there as well. And I'm sorry if you're going through this, but I'm not going to harp on that anymore in this podcast. I'm going to get back to a man who has lived the most incredible life in skiing. And while part one of the Klaus Obermeyer podcast takes us from Nazi Germany to the US, part 2 is a look into how Klaus helped change ski and pop culture forever. And with this interview, just like last time, I have someone sitting next to Klaus to help translate what I'm saying. Nomi Obermeyer, Klaus's wife, is next to Klaus, and you'll hear her a couple times throughout the interview. I think it adds to the conversation. It's another really interesting episode, and before I get into it, I want to ask you to tell a friend to go listen to this episode. If you like it, they will too, and you're both going to learn something from Klaus. I'd also appreciate it if you share my social posts, especially on this one, because Klaus doesn't have social, so sharing his story is really helpful in getting it in front of as many people as possible. I thank you for doing that. Finally, I want you to please, please, please support my incredible sponsors who make this show happen. They are Liquid Force, Elan Skis, Outdoor Research, Stanley, and Best Day Brewing. Now, it's time to talk with Klaus Obermeyer. I was hoping that we could start this one off with another yodel. Can you give me a yodel, Klaus?
I can't. The yodel got kind of also sick for a while, and it's coming back slowly. But it's just not a real yodel.
Okay, well, that will work perfect for the yodel. And then when we left off last time, you had parted ways with Warren Miller and you had gotten recruited by Freedle Pfieffer to be part of the Aspen Ski School. How did you get yourself from Sun Valley to Aspen?
I got to Aspen from Sun Valley, where I thought I would meet Freedle Pfieffer. He used to have that Sun Valley Ski School. And I asked her, where do I find Freedle Pfieffer? They said, Aspen. I said, oh, thank you. I went into the Aspen Chalet in Sun Valley and said, I'd like to talk to Freedle Pfieffer. And they said, no, he's in Aspen. That's a town. It's a ghost town in Colorado that's 800 miles from here. So I called some friends I had in Los Angeles, and anyhow, Fred Iselin listened to what I was talking in the booth, and he said, you can have dinner with us tonight, and we will call Freedle in Aspen. And so his wife was from Vienna, and she made a wonderful Viennese dinner. And we called Friedel, and he said, "You have got to come here." He said, "With you will be 7 instructors when we start in 1947. So, anyhow, eventually I went to Aspen by bus, and Salt Lake City I got a train that stopped in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, and there was a little percent taxi. There was a woman who did that on a really rough road. We went to Aspen, and I thought, oh my God, that's hopeless. And so I saw Friedel, and Friedel said, "Klaus, you're an engineer and technician. When you don't teach skiing, make skiing safer and more fun." And so we worked together on it, and we made the first suntan lotion that functioned, and a lot of 50 things, better ski boot laces. At that time, laces, no buckles.
Yep.
We made a lot of things that are now worldwide. The ski stopper was one of them. So anyhow, then it snowed that first night in Aspen, and the next day I went on the mountain, and that snow was powder snow, a very, very light powder snow like in Europe at 3,000 meters elevation, because Aspen is like 8,000 feet above sea level. So they had this unbelievably wonderful snow. And Friedel was right. He came there with the 10th Mountain Division. It came to America before the war because he could smell Hitler coming, the horror. And there were quite a few guys from Austria, the Tyrol, and Bavaria and Switzerland that then joined the 10th Mountain Division and fought against the German soldiers in Italy. And so they came from where now Wales is. They came on skis all the way to Aspen. And Friedel saw that mountain. He put skins on his skis and climbed all the way up to the top of Aspen Mountain. And he said, that will be a fabulous ski resort. We will be very successful, and we really were too successful. Now we have fairly high prices.
Yeah, the highest prices in the land, I feel like. But the beauty of what you did and what Friedel knew was that he put you in the perfect position to identify what skiers would need to be comfortable on the mountain. And because you were paid by every lesson taught, for you, if your students couldn't come to class because they were cold or sunburned, you didn't get paid. And is that the real inspiration for solving their problems to make sure they could come and ski?
First of all, I taught skiing. And secondly, a lot of times in the evening, you worked on things like a ski stopper and things that just needed to be changed. Ski boots. We made the first double ski boot out of leather in Germany and brought it in the Garmisch boot, and that was a phenomenal thing. So it had a soft inner boot and a tough outer boot of leather. And there were so many things that needed to be better, like bindings, like we made the first metal ski poles. They had hazelnut poles before that. So it was a phenomenal opening of making things better. A lot of it.
What was the first product that you came up with the idea to make?
I think the first really important thing was the suntan lotion. There was no suntan lotion in the world that worked. It just kept the ultraviolet rays from getting through to hurt you. Yeah, in Ohio, we had a chemical factory, and they made, among other things, creams. And they put a little crystal in that reflected the burning rays of the sunshine.
Huh.
And it worked. It was the first one that actually worked. Before that, it had a raw face and got burned.
So with your first product, when you do it, I mean, you're a ski instructor, so I'm sure you don't have a ton of money to start a company and Sport Obermeyer to start building things. And I read somewhere that you borrowed $10,000 from a potato farmer to start your business. Is that true?
I started out with kugu ties. Those are kind of woolen ball ties
Pom-poms.
instead of a cravat or necktie.
And you sold a lot of them. You sold 32,000 in 2 years of those, right?
Yeah.
But he's wondering, when you first got money, how did you get it? And you went to the suntan lotion going.
I didn't have any. Well, I started teaching skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I paid for that. And I went to the little store and bought the wool, and I made the ties that my mom showed me how to make. And and then there was a success.
You did not have the money to start a suntan lotion business.
No.
So how did you get money for Obermeyer? You borrowed money from a farmer down here who gave you cash.
Yeah, well, it was not that expensive.
Okay.
I was making good money. I worked overtime on skiing, and I worked all Sunday, all Saturday. I make good money.
And when you first needed to borrow money, how did you get your first money?
The first money I got from the bank in Denver.
The first money you got, you went to the barber, and the barber told you about the farmer who could loan you some money. You have to tell him about that.
No, there's a misunderstanding.
No, it's not.
The local banker said you'll be never able to repay it. He's taken so many losses from miners that went out of business. So when I needed $5,000 loan, I was teaching Baron de Gansberg from France, and he said, I have a bank account in Denver. Let's get the 5,000 there. So when we were there, the banker, Mr. Phelan, he will give it to me, but François de Gansberg had to countersign that I repaid on time. So I repaid it one day early, and then the next year I got 10,000 without the signature from François de Gansberg. So anyhow, the bankers were so great, and they learned how to ski in Aspen, and it was a whole new sport family outdoors that skiing created. It was so much fun and was so nice.
So those guys help give you the money to get your dreams going. And what's the next product that you make? Because we know that the down jacket is something that you're looked at as inventing. Was that the next product? And what was the inspiration for it?
That I was teaching in Aspen, and people didn't have ski clothing. And so they had long city coats, and there was a single chair lift that went to midway, and there the took the big coat off and sent it down on the lift because you couldn't ski. You couldn't move in it well enough. And it took like 15 minutes from Midway down for the lift. And we skied it in a few minutes and waited for our coat. And so I thought the down comforter that my mom forced me to take to America, she said, that's North America where you're going to, and it must be cold there. So you take your down comforter with you, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, but I had to. So then I thought, well, one day I cut it up and made a kind of a jacket. I mean, it was awful, but it was short, it was warm, and you could ski in it. You didn't have to wait for the lift to bring your coat back down. So Gary Cooper bought it from me. He said, Klaus, can I try that? I said, sure. And he said, I'll buy it from you. It was like like a 3-year-old making a suit, you know.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but money was really never a problem, even when I had practically nothing. For instance, I made the cookie ties and sold them to the nice store in Aspen and Sun Valley. Pete Lane, Sun Valley bought them. And he told me he showed it to a guy from New York. And it said $1.75. He said, $1.75? Can they talk? You know? I don't know. It just everything always worked. You know, somehow, if it's practical, if it's nice, we want to live a life that puts a smile on our face. You know, and so we smiled all the way to right now.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm going to start out with Liquid Force. And not only are they back supporting the podcast, but this summer, they're bringing back the most important party and event in wakeboarding. That's right, Brostock is back, and the contest features the best riders in the world, and the event is so much more than that. But that's not all Liquid Force is up to this summer. You know what's more fun than watching the pros ride? Riding with them. And you can ride with the Liquid Force pros like Daniel Grant, Claudia Pagini, and Gunther Oka at a local lake or cable park near you at their Ride with the Pro Tour. And while Liquid Force is doing all these great things to build community on the water, they're also on the forefront of product innovation. And if you're a foil frother, you're going to want to check out the new FuseLock foil system. Wake surfers are going to love the all-new Ace and Synchro offerings. And the 2025 line features fresh boards, rad graphics, and more comp vest colorways than ever before. Park to boat to foil, Liquid Force has gear for every rider type, whether it's boat, cable, foil, or surf. To find out more about the events and the products, head on over to liquidforce.com. And when you see something you like, put it in your cart, and when you check out, enter the code POWELL15, that's all caps with no spaces, and you will save 15% off your order. Liquid Force, feel the pull. Next up, it's Elan Skis. And Elan doesn't need to support this podcast in the summertime. I've said that every summer. But they do it because they understand the importance of cultivating the stories that make the snow industry what it is. But if you haven't noticed, while they've always been big in Europe, Elan has built a growing cult following here in the States. It all started with the still thriving ripstick revolution that made skiing easier and more fun for anyone that tried them. That same idea, easier and more fun, is what they delivered to their Playmaker series of twin tips. How does Elan deliver a better ski experience? Well, it's all about using the best materials known to man. And that's no joke. This is the same Elan that's known for building award-winning luxury yachts. So they never cut corners. And the fit and finish is better than anything else on the ski wall. Seriously, if you pick one up and you look at the edges and you see those seams of glue on all the different skis, look at Elan's and you're going to see a seamless pairing because they do take that additional time to pay that attention to detail. And it's awesome. and it makes everyone feel like they're making pro-level turns. And that's what skiing is all about, that feeling. So remember, before you buy your next pair of skis, demo a pair of Elans, or just head on over to elanskis.com, pick a pair, and elevate your skiing experience. My final sponsor this round is Best Day Brewing. And while I love the taste of a good beer, I don't always need the alcohol. I mean, my life revolves around driving my kid places, running errands, interviewing people, managing my family, and all of these things I do better when I don't have a head full of alcohol. That's where Best Day comes in. These days, if I'm not partying, I'm still having beers, and those beers are from the award-winning Best Day Brewery. And there are a lot of NA beers out there right now, but none taste as good as Best Day. I love the hazy IPA, the Kolsch that you can get on all Alaska airline flights, and everyone seems to like the Electro Lime Cerveza. I could go on and on as they have so many flavors, and I love them all. The beauty of Best Day is that they average about 60 calories and they won't get you in trouble. And pro tip, if you're partying, try to mix in a Best Day for every alcoholic beverage you have, and it will extend your night. It does it for me, and it keeps me from doing anything stupid. To have your best day or night ever, head on over to bestdaybrewing.com. If you make that order over $50, we'll also throw in free shipping. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. So you made those jackets, another product that you made, because these are all inventions. And while I don't call you an inventor because you're like a legend in skiing, you are an inventor. And another thing I think you invented is the mirrored sunglass. Is that true?
Yeah, the unbreakable mirror sunglasses from France. They were terrific, But they also broke, They were sensitive. They were really just a different make because we also didn't want to get the sun in from the side.
Yes.
So we had that covered and the glass unbreakable.
So did Obermeyer have the first mirrored sunglass?
I think so. Maybe there was somebody in China that may have had one.
Yes.
And did they get popular outside of the mountains? Like, were people wearing Obermeyer sunglasses in like Hollywood because they were mirrored and no one else was doing that at the time?
Somehow it was then still a small market of people who skied. Luckily, Fred Iselin had a good connection with the Hollywood people and brought them to Aspen, and that gave us the first kind of a thing to get known for.
And then another ski invention we have to talk about is the ski brake. What was the worst thing you saw before ski brakes were invented? Like, did you see the runaway ski take people out?
The ski brake, the way it was, you had a leather strap attached to your ski boot and to the ski. So when you took a fall and the binding opened, the ski did not go down the mountain and hurt somebody.
Yes.
So we worked and did all kinds of things. And that was like a 3-year project because it was not allowed on the mountain at first. And then Brother Wally was on the ski patrol and got the ski patrol to use it. And then the next year, we were able to put it on the market.
Yeah.
How about the other products? What else do you take? I mean, there's the turtleneck, but what else do you take credit for bringing to the ski hill?
The poles were made in Immenstadt in Bavaria. And I had a friend there that had a little technical job. His name was Roskopf. And I told him, I said, the bamboo sticks, they break. And so he made me the first one out of steel. And then later, Scotty, my friend Scotty, in Sun Valley, had them made.
And that's how Scott became Scott Poles?
Got poles and goggles.
So there's all these inventions that you've made, that they've made skiing better, they've made it safer, they've made it easier to get on the mountain. But One thing you didn't do that a lot of people do, most inventors do, is they patent their ideas. Why didn't you patent yours?
Well, the new ideas, they come to you because you're aiming in your life as to what you want to do. Do you want to be a dishwasher all your life? Or do you want to be a cook? Or do you want to do something interesting that makes life better? And skiing naturally was so new. There were so many opportunities to make it better. And we made it better and never got mad against people who copied you, because going forward is what we did. Going forward, the hell with the harem from the last year. Make it better, make it better, make it work well. And all of skiing was like that. So anyhow, now there are some pretty good skis and all kinds of interesting stuff.
Yeah, and regardless of the patents, how long before Sport Obermeyer was more successful than you could possibly have imagined?
I don't know. That was not the reason why we did it. The reason was to make life better and make skiing more fun and have people love it and come away from the stove bench in the winter and get outdoors and love it. It's so beautiful. We got them to get out and change their lives, you know.
Yeah, you changed a ton of people's lives. And things that were changing when you were there is Aspen. And I'm going to go away from the company a little bit, talk about Aspen. In the 1950s, the World Championships came to Aspen. Sport Obermeyer is already a known entity. But how important were the World Championships to growing Aspen in the 50s?
That was very important. Yeah, that was very important because we had 1 week of sunshine and powder snow. It was absolutely ideal. And so the people that came from other parts of the world, they thought, oh my God, what a great snow. What a great weather. Oh my God. It was just better than anything. They loved it.
And then, the mountain itself or the area itself in 63, they start paving the roads. You get Snowmass in 1967. Was there a concentrated effort to make Aspen like the global ski destination?
I tell you how Snowmass started. We flew a 172 Cessna and landed it above timberline and turned it around while we were going so that it faced downhill. And then 3 of us skied down and one had to fly the plane back,
Yeah.
There was nobody else, nobody there. There was one little lady on the bottom in some kind of a store, little thing, but there was practically nothing in Snowmass except a big ranch. So Snowmass started from 0 and then turned out to be really fabulous. It was a little higher than Aspen, had a little more snow than Aspen Mountain, and it was the terrain huge and wonderful. Aspen also naturally had right away started with great music and a math school. It added things to get better and have this good spirit, have a good spirit and make things well and do it to where people love it and where it's good for people to be there,
Yeah.
Just make it better than what there is.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about another person that was from Aspen that I'm hoping that you knew. But in the 60s, people started coming out to Aspen, and there was one notorious writer that moved to Aspen, Hunter S. Thompson. And did you know Hunter S. Thompson?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
He was, a counterculture, different kind of person that came into Aspen. What did he bring to that community?
A good spirit and a meeting place for intelligent people, a forward look in life. What will make life better is positive, and just make it a special place, not an ordinary place.
Do you have a crazy Hunter Thompson story?
No, there are lots of stories. I just think Leonard was a great guy, and Walter Pepke was a great guy. And they wanted, I think, to make a place where it's fun to be and where you can learn and where you can extend your knowledge and where you can work together with other people well and have a great music and great math and just be ahead. That was the thought of Aspen, is make it better. And we made it better besides the phenomenal skiing.
Okay, another thing about Aspen that has to do with the skiing is in the 70s, the hot dog movement came to town. And it almost, that was birthed out of Aspen. There was some, on the East Coast as well, Waterville. But when you think about hot dogging in Aspen, you were involved because you owned a clothing company that was involved in everything skiing. But was the hot dog movement a breath of fresh air to skiing at that point?
Well, I think that any sport has the intention to be better as you go forward. What do? Do things that just are positive and better, and that's what was done all the way.
I guess another athlete I'm going to ask you about from that time, Spider Sabich. Were you a friend of Spider Sabich's? He was like the epitome of Aspen. And what kind of person was he?
Spider Sabich, he was funny. I skied with him quite a bit, and he was a great guy, and the girls were after him like crazy, and he got shot by one of the girls, but she said she didn't know that there was a bullet in the gun. So, but he was a great skier, and he had his own technique to turn on the inside ski of the turn and take all the weight off the outside. And that was the way Spider Sabich skied, and he was also a nice guy,
But that's totally different than anything anybody has skied like before, right? No one skis like that.
He was the only one that really did that.
Did you know Claudine?
Yeah.
Were you shocked?
Well, that was not very good, but that was their relationship, not mine. So I stayed clear totally of that stuff,
Yeah. It's time for my second round of sponsors, and I'm going to start things out with outdoor research. I've been using OR products since I moved to Seattle almost 25 years ago because they outperform everything on the market. I mean, they build their products to perform in the wet and soggy cold weather of the Pacific Northwest. And when you live where we do, you need to have the best in class. While OR has always been known for building industry-leading gear for mountaineers, skiers, and snowboarders, they've gone all in on an award-winning bike line that FreeHub describes as outdoor research has once again raised the bar, offering riding gear that's not just functional but also stylish and durable. That meticulous design and thoughtful engineering of the Freewheel collection have the power to transform the mountain biking experience. So high praise, and outdoor research is doing a lot of things on the athlete side. While they launched with an incredible team, they had the Van Steenbergen brothers, Georgia Astley, This year, they've added Casey Brown, Carson Storch, and others. And between the athletes and the events they support, while OR might be new to the bike world, they've always lived it, and there's not many brands doing what OR is doing in the world of bike. To see the new products and what the hype is all about, head on over to outdoorresearch.com. My final sponsor is Stanley, the iconic Northwest brand that invented the category of keeping things hot and cold over 100 years ago. You remember Stanley from your grandfather's green thermos that kept his coffee hot forever when he took you out on adventures. Well, Stanley still makes that bottle and so much more. Think tumblers, water bottles, barware, camping utensils, coolers, vacuum bottles. There really is something for everyone at Stanley. And between the unique colors and the collaborations that Stanley's doing, there really is something for everyone in the Stanley line. And they're not going to gouge you with crazy prices. Stanley is the originator, and they pride themselves on providing you and me with the best products at the best value. And that value gets even better when you shop with my code. To use it, head on over to stanley1913.com, go shopping, and buy a ton of stuff because, like I said, this code is 30% off. It's the best deal that Stanley offers. And when you check out, enter the code capital P-O-W-E-L-L. That's Powell 2025. So no spaces in between that. Capital P-O-W-E-L-L 2025. That's where you get your code. Thank you very much for the support, Stanley. They make the best gear in the world. You've seen them everywhere. And if you don't have one, you definitely need one. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. When thinking about other athletes, I'm sure Obermeyer's sponsored a ton of different ones over the years. Who was the first athlete that you really wanted to sponsor?
Yeah, from Tyrol. There were like 20 that were pretty damn terrific, you know. We were friends and skied together, and I learned from them and they learned from me. And we learned from each other and moved forward with technique of skiing to make it better and have fun.
With fun in snow sports, kind of in the, the late 80s, early 90s, I think in Aspen it was like 83 where people could snowboard. But snowboarding came, and while Obermeyer is not a big player in snowboarding these days, was Obermeyer involved in snowboarding in the beginning?
No, but we had a son. His name is Klausi. And he had a friend who invented the snowboarding, or looks like he invented it. And it's a great way to play in the snow. And it's wonderful and has developed into a great, great sport, which is terrific. I love it, you know.
Yeah. I read somewhere that at 100 years old, you were still going into the office and working like 40 hours a week. Have you always been so involved in business and been spending time in the office like that?
Well, you look at it not as hard work. That's the wrong thing to be with. You look at it, what works well, what can be done that's better. Keep moving forward, not stand still or go backwards. Keep moving forward and enjoy life doing good stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, I know this whole deal has never been about money for you. It's all been about making skiing more fun, making it more safe, getting people out on snow. But based on you going from like a 10,000 foot shed in 1960 to a 32,000 square foot solar facility in 1980 to being valued at $25 million in 1985, I'm going to assume that you became very wealthy, and that's great. But what's the coolest or most, I don't really need this, but I want to buy this purchase that you've ever made?
I don't know.
Windsurfing.
I think that the most fun is in a foot of powder snow and nobody in the way and fly down the mountain.
But did you have the Jaguar and the airplane and all that stuff that you mentioned, Nomi?
Klaus had a couple of Jaguars, and you recall him saying how he and Warren Miller looked at that Jaguar in Sun Valley through the window for an hour. He did have a Jaguar when I met him, and for quite a while thereafter. I think the sport thing that I recall him being so grateful for was the windsurfer that we got. He
Yeah.
loved learning to windsurf. That was great.
Well, the windsurfing was great fun, just great fun. And you can do it when there's no skiing, you know.
Yep.
That just was great fun. And tennis is great fun, is also wonderful. And fencing, foil fencing, I did in Munich, you know, that is a great fun. And having a fault boat on the river is great fun. We're surrounded by wonderfulness, you know.
We are. And I guess you've had a ton of time to think about this, because when you think about life, you've lived more than almost anyone. And when you think about your life, what are you most proud of?
I'm not proud of anything. Pride is not the thing you want to have. What you want to have is to look forward and make it better. Don't be proud of what you've done. That's old already from yesterday, and tomorrow will be another day. And go forward, not backwards.
That is perfect. That is our podcast, and it truly has been an honor to have you on the show. From hearing about Nazis shooting you, to hearing about you building your brand, the things that you've done over the past 105 years, and more importantly, how you've lived throughout that time, it's almost like a fairy tale. I mean, you had to escape your country with a bullet in your back, you had to get away from the Nazis, like I said, you meet Warren Miller, you guys are both starting out, then you go to Aspen, then you're a rock star ski instructor, then you have to quit that because your personal project made you rich and ski famous. It's such an incredible story, and I want to thank you for all you've done for skiing to make it better, safer, and more fun, and I want to thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, and carry on the good spirit.
So that was time with Klaus Obermeyer, and what a cool two-part episode. While life and living is something that I think about a lot every day, Klaus has lived more than any of us. Not in just time, but how he lived his life. I mean, the dude was on a mission to make skiing better, and he became a world-famous skier, not just Ski Town famous, and that's hard to do when you're not known as a professional athlete. But Klaus has lived a life of having fun and being good to others, and it has paid off in spades to the tune of 105 years. I often think to myself that I'll be ready to go around 70 or 80 years old. I feel like I have so much pain in my body already from all the dumb shit I've done, and it's only going to get worse, and by that age, I'll be ready to go. But if I had the setup like Klaus does, I'd want to live forever. And maybe that's his plan. It's been working so far for 105 years. We'll see how much longer Klaus can go. What an amazing person, what an amazing life, what an amazing career. That is Klaus Obermeyer. That is the show. I thank you for listening. I ask you to please review me wherever you listen. If you listen on Spotify, just hit the star rating button by my name, and that will review me there. But if you're on iTunes, here is what you need to do. At the homepage, click that purple podcast icon. Second, search for the Powell Movement. And even if you already subscribe to the show, you still need to search for the Powell Movement. Third, scroll down to where you see my logo. Fourth, click my logo. Fifth, scroll down to where the ratings and reviews are. Sixth, star rate me with 5 stars, please. And seventh, if you feel up to it and going the extra mile, please review me. All of this takes about a minute to a minute and a half, and it is greatly appreciated. It does help me move up the algorithm. Whatever that means, I don't even know, but it does help things. So thank you for doing that. I also want to thank you for listening week in and week out, and want to ask you to support my incredible sponsors who make this podcast happen. They are Liquid Force, Elan Skis, Outdoor Research, Stanley, and Best Day Brewing. Have a great week, everyone.